button clicked, and now we hum an elevator song while we wait for it to go. Hey, that was Three's Company? Nicely done over there. Well, yeah. What's up, everybody? I think we're live now. I don't know. Windows Update is the bane of my existence, and I have other banes, but that's the number one at this point. I'm so irritated, and this happened. It happened with a different program last week when I was trying to get a show on last Wednesday with Mike. Actually, it was we were recording on Wednesday morning last week, and something had gone totally haywire. The recording settings had all been screwed up. I don't know why these updates have to mess with my perfectly tailored settings. I don't know what I've done. Once I set them, I forget them. That's the whole point of the phrase, set it and forget it. And this morning I couldn't get our encoder to work. I couldn't get Bruce's face on the thing. All I was getting was either a black screen or like a picture of a notepad document that I have open on my computer, which is riveting video show material. But anyway, I think it's working now. So good morning, Brew.
This is great. I'm just letting you go. You gotta talk it out, Dan. Let's talk it out. Let's. I want to get you out of your tech funk. You know, Kaz from the Kaz and Brew Show. He goes through this all the time. I'm an expert in handling people who are about to break or throw a computer.
Yeah, it's a big computer.
What I've found is you just pour gas on the fire and you just can start making fun of them.
Yeah, that's the way to go.
Get it figured out. And I'm always a fan of somebody too that thinks that they can just hit a bunch of buttons on something. My wife does it. She just hit a bunch of buttons.
Button mashing.
It's not working.
That was pioneered in the days of Street Fighter 2 Turbo Edition, right? You just hit them all until a Hadouken fires out, and then you're good to go. This is my desktop PC. This is my safe space, if you want to use a term from nowadays. How can my safe space...
Narrator, it was his safe space.
It was, yeah. If I threw this one through a window, it would require... a lot of lifting, a lot of plugs to undo. Man! Okay, everything's fine. Everything's fine here, guys. Everything's fine, except that Jonas Valanciunas is trapped in Europe. That's the only thing that's actually not
that what happened to him?
Yeah, something like that. I don't know. He went home for the All-Star break, and I guess he's not back yet. But although I saw a second tweet that said he was hoping to be back for Saturday's game, because they have a back-to-back, so... then we can get a good look at that. But we'll get into that in a second. That's when we start the real show. This is the pre-show where I get to scream about my computer.
Wait for it to go.
And make sure that all of the settings are right and allow you guys to get a few more questions in, because I know things are a little screwball today, and it's a strange time. And, Brew, I know what we should talk about that's on the non-recorded side. Did you see, and I don't know how much we can say about it, but... I think it's worth bringing up a little bit. Did you see the Tim Donaghy stuff coming back out from the dead yesterday?
That was pretty. I mean, it's been a weird time for the NBA. The week off always generates big stories, right? So as a writer, you want to have dead time so you can work on stuff. So you saw a bunch of big stories, and just regular basketball stuff, nothing crazy, but like that was one of the big stories that came out, and the NBA released a kind of a counter to that, and the great Sam Amick said that they went hard. So, the Donaghy stuff, and you have more exposure to the gaming world than I do. Rocked the NBA, I think, and a lot of people look at it with a lot of side eye because, he's just sort of not he's not a good actor. So when he's out there saying what he's saying, you always got to look at it skeptically. But a lot of stuff, as the league goes into gaming, we're going to just continue to go down this road where you have to have transparency, and you have to have, I guess more transparency than what we've had in the past. So as with everything in life, things will continue to improve. And, I do think people should be able to game. And, it's a big part of what we do around here.
Damn right they should.
Yeah, I mean,
give me my money.
Man, ain't nobody telling you don't eat no Big Mac. If you can stop eating a Big Mac, you can stop gaming when you need to stop gaming. And of course, people do need help with that stuff. But it's a great thing for engagement. It makes the sport better to watch. It makes it better to play with. As far as fantasy gaming and everything like that. So it's it's just something that the league will have to get better at. So I'll be interested to read their retort, and then we'll see how it all goes from there.
And now we segue into the.
Did I talk pointlessly enough for you to get like all settled over there?
I think so. I don't know. This whole thing is.
I can keep waxing about nothing.
Disaster.
It's just a whole bunch of words that mean nothing, and just jumble them together and buy you whatever time you need over there, Dan.
That's what you'd use the predictive text on your phone, right? You want to do that about Tim Donaghy and see what comes up? Let's type Tim Donaghy in our phone and see what predictive text suggests. I'm going to do this right now while we're on a podcast. Tim Donaghy.
Dan, we just had a conversation about the contents of the shows.
Predictive text says, has always happened to me. There you go. Tim Donaghy has always happened to me. There's your deep thought of the day. With who's the Saturday Night Live Deep Thoughts with Jack Handy? There's your Jack Handy thought of the morning. All right, I'm going to turn
my favorite part of that show, by the way.
That was a great. And
my favorite one, I think, was "Caw," said the crow.
All right, I'm turning us down for a sec. We're going to get the recorder going now. Everybody sit tight.
Caw.
I'm really working hard to stop chuckling at the crow over here. What's happening, everyone? Welcome to Fantasy NBA Today Live. We're back, baby. Brew, you and I haven't done a live show in a couple of weeks. We had the trade deadline spectacular, and then everybody got sick. And when I say everybody, I mean just like me for the better part of 2 weeks. That's what happens. But I'm back, baby. I finally stopped coughing yesterday, and I'm ready to have a podcast where I can laugh again. Oh, to be young. Good morning, the great Aaron Bruski, El Arquitecto. What's up, my man?
Just watching the world burn, Dan. I'm having a good time. It's good. It felt good to have basketball last night. I'm not going to lie. It was a lot of good stuff on, and, wrote that B150 update for the post-All-Star break. And it's just crazy out there. I think it sneaks up on us every single year where we go into the All-Star break. A lot of people are sort of not, I guess they don't know that the halfway part of the season has passed. So it just happens so fast. And now we're looking at 23 to 26 games for all these teams. And whether you're looking at it from a fantasy or a reality perspective, there's just this dividing mark in the season where teams go, okay, we're past the All-Star break. We're going to tank, or we're going to go for it. We're going to play hard now. Whatever that might be, that happens in such a small sample size the rest of the way. And then probably 3 weeks from now, we get right into the silly season. So a lot of you folks that have a lot of playoff leagues, that's of utmost importance because your fortune could just completely tip on you in a week. And so it's just a really exciting time of year, and the basketball does get better. So I like it a lot.
Well, lucky for you, I have a bunch of questions for us to go over, and that will all be about the basketball that you like a lot. You ready to talk some, I don't even know what to call this one. We can call it, What the Hell Happened the Last 2 Weeks? Does that sound like a decent enough title?
Yep, that works for me. Let's do it.
All right, then we'll get to questions from the chat room. You guys know the drill. It's a live show on Friday. This is also being ported out into the traditional podcast channel, so I remind all of you that cannot see the video feed right now to follow at Hoopball Fantasy for our blurbs. I am at Dan Besbris. Aaron is at Aaron Bruski. And if you have a moment while you're listening to the show, either head on over to our YouTube channel and subscribe, or rate and review the podcast. Do something that injects a little coal into our engine over here. It's a coal engine train that we're driving. First thing we got to go through, Brew, it's got to be Anthony Davis update stuff, because we've been tracking this thing. Everybody, I think, in the basketball community, fantasy or reality, has been watching this like a hawk. And we got some new information on the AD front yesterday, which is that he will attempt to play in every game the rest of the way, but on a limited scale, that his minutes are going to be dialed back into the half ball game territory. And also, and this was arguably the sadder part of the news, that Drew Holiday's minutes will also be dialed back a tiny bit. So I guess my question for you is, how much do you believe this report? Because I still think the Pelicans are going to try to find a way to shut him down, But if he really does play 24 minutes a game the rest of the way, Anthony Davis still is a top 25 guy in that number of minutes. He's that crazy impressive. Which side of the coin do you fall on? How believable is it? Are you buying? Are you selling? There's a lot of news wrapped up in that one report.
Well, Bobby Ferry and his Duke connection is close with Adam Silver. So, and he's trying to ingratiate himself around the league still after getting bounced from Atlanta.
Danny Ferry, right? Yeah,
I think I called him Bobby Ferry. I haven't had enough Hawaiian Isles Kona coffee yet. Not kidding.
Got to get that into the veins, man.
It's right here. It's just sitting there staring at me. So this is one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. Like, you can't make a trade demand in the middle of the year and still want to play with that team and have a say. I'm sorry. So whoever's giving Anthony Davis advice, a lot of times they don't care what Twitter thinks, and they don't care they think that they can craft the media narrative. So the Rich Pauls, the NBAs, the MVPAs of the world, and you talk around the league, everybody agrees that Twitter doesn't really matter. It just matters if it hits big time TV or radio outlets. So something like Inside the NBA would bug people. Charles Barkley's been very out from. Well, actually, Charles Barkley's been hilarious the last 24 hours, but like he's yeah,
that was a pretty good Liam Neeson crack there, Chuck.
Oh yeah, I'm dying. But yeah, no, I mean, they don't care. And they think that they can sort of push through this. And the league is backed into a corner on the tanking issue. But this is I mean, if I was a Pelicans fan, I would be irate. You're not only telling me that the Lakers can pluck my guy and, LeBron can go put him on his HBO show and, just sort of like use their muscle like that, which is all fair game. I'm fine with that. But the fact that the Pelicans can't defend themselves and say, okay, we're going to protect the asset and get the distraction off the floor and not be a laughing stock around the league. You have to be able to do that if you're the Pelicans, and they're not getting that right now. And maybe this is, you got an owner who's not exactly, one of the league's strongest owners. So who knows what's happening in New Orleans with ownership. Maybe that lack of leverage there is really shining through here. And as far as Davis goes, he's just going to look like a dumbass. Like, I'm sorry, he's just going to look like a dumbass out there. So how long does he want to do that is the big question. And 24 minutes per game, 25 minutes per game, that's early round value. I ranked him, for those that haven't, subscribed and that aren't, already in there. I had Davis like around 45 because, if you're going to get that kind of run, you're probably looking at back end first round or probably late or early round value. And then you have the question of missed games. And a hilarious question is this upcoming situation. They talk about him not playing back-to-backs, which I don't even think is on the table right now. I think that was something that they brought up early in this process, but I don't think that there's any real concern about back-to-back games right now. But if there is a concern about back-to-back games, him taking a game off against the Lakers in the playoff chase, are you kidding me? Like, come on. This is the dumbest story I've seen in some time. There's actually dumbass writers out there that are defending this guy. I'm sorry, this is just stupid. You already got the Chris Paul thing if you're a Pelicans fan. And now you got this. And and Davis has left the game due to injury like every other game for like the last 2 years. If he doesn't leave a game due to injury, it's an anomaly. So, I mean, it's going to be hilarious. You definitely want him to stay healthy, obviously.
Okay, so then let me phrase it in a way that really sort of cuts down to the main core of this thing. Number one, AD, you said you have, well, I
had him around 40 to 50. I don't have the exact number, so I think like 45.
That sounds to me like you still think he's going to miss a few games in this chunk.
I don't. I mean, did I mention this is one of the dumbest things I've ever seen?
So what about Drew Holiday? Are you selling on him with that news, or you just have to kind of hang on?
Andrew Lopez sort of followed up the original report, which was a gaggle of reporters standing around Danny Ferry that they were going to bring Drew's minutes down. that to me seemed like something. This was Andrew's idea with, following up on this today as well. That seems to me to be just something that would have happened anyway. He's been taking on too much usage, just not enough good players around him. He's played a ton of minutes this year. It makes sense anyway, no matter what, that he doesn't play, that they don't run him through the finish line hard. So I mean, not great, but I don't think that it's a big cut in minutes.
Okay.
Sure, he's a shutdown risk, just like every other player on every team that's not a playoff team. He's got that same designation as everybody else.
But you're not selling low on him right now.
It depends on the offer, of course, but
right.
He is I would say this is an incremental hit and not a existential hit.
Deep thoughts continue here on Fantasy NBA Today. Okay, so then what about the what about Jahlil Okafor then? He was a guy we'd been watching as someone that could really step in if AD was fully shut down. This leaves presumably 24 center minutes on the table at least on any given night. That's assuming none of AD's minutes come at power forward. Is Okafor a hold, a drop, a hard add? Where does he fall on your list now?
He's still a hard add because he can, in this type of sort of garbagey sort of basketball that they're about to play, he can go out there and just get numbers. And he's right now sitting in a top 75 range for a similar amount of workload that you're talking about there, 24 to 26 minutes per game. What you saw early on was what it could look like in this sort of garbagey situation where he could get easy early round value. And there's something about that scorekeeper in New Orleans we got to look into. We talk about it every year. But like the steals and blocks, were good for him while things were going well. He has lightened up. I think that he's gotten some good clarity. We've talked about that in the past, off the court about what he's trying to accomplish. He's been in shape. So he's a little bit different than what we've seen in past versions. So obviously a must-add player because they did also play him at power forward before the break, him being Anthony Davis. So they've split those guys up. I think he gets the 24 minutes per game no matter what. As long as he stays healthy, he's had some ankle stuff that you worry about a little bit. But I think top 75 or better the rest of the season. So you think there's some upside there if he could get to like 27 to 29 minutes? Yeah, I think the big thing for him is to get the minutes without AD and be a focal point for that team because he can get the rebounds and he can climb up to 18 points real fast if he's a focal point, which if you start to pull back Drew Holiday's minutes, if you pull back AD, Julius Randle's a question mark there. He could take up a bunch of usage, but Anthony Davis being sort of minimized, I think that to me is a lock for Jahlil Okafor, that he's going to be a big presence on the interior for them. And, at a minimum, I'm thinking top 75. All right, that to me was probably the toughest thing we're going to talk about, and I'm guessing there will be questions that come about with it. Let's move along to station number 2, and that is Enes Kanter, 18-9 in his Blazers debut. I mean, we could talk about what that means going forward. This feels like probably one of the better per-minute counts he could put up, but he's always been a solid per-minute guy. 18-9 with a steal on 8 out of 9 shooting in those 20 minutes. That's the number that really jumps out. But, if he and Nurkic are splitting the center minutes, and Nurk has been set mostly around 27 this year, Kanter at 21 to 22, do you see this as a repeatable situation? Where does he fall the rest of the way? I think we talked about it last week, but now we actually have one game of watching him. Yeah, I mean, it's great news in that we had one of two ways this could go. One is that he struggles to assimilate. They don't play him as much as you would want him to be played. And, it's just top 125 numbers. And I think where we set the bar was, look, this is a top 100 floor. And then you're hoping for something better than that. He's really, with the first game, trended towards something better than that. And with Nurkic being a lower minute guy, it's easy to see them folding Kanter into a 20-minute role, kind of where he's been in the past, where he's really excelled in the past. So I would probably upgrade him to being like a top 80, projection going forward. And And that's easy must-own value. And they have a really good blueprint there. They've already done it with Nurkic, working through, all the places in the post that he likes the ball. It's very similar to where Enes Kanter likes the ball. And I think he can do similar things, Enes Kanter, that Nurkic is doing. And maybe even a little better, actually. Some of the mid-range jumper stuff, I think that Enes Kanter might be a little bit more confident out there.
And you got to like the fact that he's going up against second unit guys. As a bench dude, he can really pick on, second string centers on a lot of teams are not good at all.
Yeah, and that's been the story with Kanter for all these times that he's put up top 60 value in the past. People don't remember, this guy's a top 60 guy and doing it in 22 minutes per game off the bench. So he can turn it up in limited minutes. And I think with that team especially, they don't have a ton of bench scoring that's reliable. So it's a great fit. And another guy that should not be on any waiver wire whatsoever.
Yeah. What a time. You said you love it, and I don't blame you. There's all these things happening. All right, now we got to go to something that I don't like as much. Mikal Bridges benched in Phoenix. Kelly Oubre inserted into the starting lineup. This is like the most.
It's so funny.
This is
Sorry,
not
I didn't
subtle.
mean to jump all over you there, but they've lost 16 games in a row, and they still don't have any idea what they could do to change that.
Gee, I wonder what they could try out there.
We were talking about this on the Cause and Brew show, about just NBA offense and how stupid everybody is. And there's nobody, one of these rich owners can't hire somebody and be like, hey, do you think you could tell those guys maybe go at the guy that can't defend and do it with your better player and instead of just pitching the ball around?
But they don't want to win. That's just the thing. I think they're absolutely positively doing this stuff on purpose to give themselves a worst, Bridges helped them.
Right. That's a tough one because you really it's case specific. You've heard people, and I forget the guy that came out recently and said that they were doing this. I think it was an older player, maybe back in the Spurs days. Anyway, it's also case specific. Some organizations absolutely detest that, and you'd think that they'd be in a position to tank. And then you got Phoenix, which is a Sarver. Sarver has and will always be a mess. And no team made the play for Richaun Holmes, during the trade deadline. So if I'm a GM, I'm watching the Suns and I'm going, please play Richaun Holmes just 13 minutes per game, please, because I'm going to come in and sign him over market. I'm going to give him 20 extra %, and it's going to be a steal of kind of like Joe Harris was, just a steal. And but they don't have any idea why they're losing games. And to me, it's hilarious. You could just go right to the box score and just look.
Yeah,
right
the plus minus
every time.
The plus minus tells an interesting tale with the Phoenix Suns on a nightly basis. And I know this isn't really fair to pick on any one guy because it's certainly not any one guy's fault. But DeAndre Ayton was a minus 21 in this game against the Cavaliers, Brew.
It's not his fault. So
no,
the great Robin Williams. It's not his fault.
Not exclusively.
He's just not. He can't defend, and that's. He has moments where he defends, but he's not deterring anybody. He's not, offensively bringing a wealth of, I'm gonna make you better. So the equation's off. He's not as good on offense as you would think he is, and then defensively, he's really not there. So when you flip the script and you put a guy in who adds value on offense the way that Richaun Holmes does, and then has the defensive side as well, it's really no comparison to me. And you're stuck if you're Phoenix. You have to play your number one pick if you even know that there's an issue, which they might not even know there's an issue because they're the Phoenix Suns and they don't know stuff.
I think they know. I think they know. I think this is like the Kings playing Zach Randolph last year. And that's not fair to DeAndre Ayton. I'm just talking about what they're doing in terms of lineup stuff. Like Tyler Johnson, 33 minutes. Is that really the move for the future?
I don't think you can say the Zach Randolph thing and not elicit a response from me. I don't know if they know.
I think they do.
Like the great Barry Banderath in Beer Fest, like when he gets with Monique and he's like, I knew the whole time.
I really think that the Kings
I don't
pulled the
time.
Warriors.
I don't know if they know.
They know.
I think some people looked at Zach Randolph as like, that guy is one of our best players. It's like, what are you guys smoking?
No, they
of course
tanked.
not.
It was a brilliant tank job. I'm giving the Kings all the credit in the world right now.
I hope it was that. That would make me, as somebody watching them, I would make me think that was smart. Like,
that was brilliant.
Good move, guys. And even Dave Yeager is like getting Coach of the Year stuff, and deservedly so. Like the play he drew up last night was a beaut. It was so good. But like the contrast only exists because you played Zach Randolph.
Yep. Dude, brilliant, the most brilliant tank in the history of tanking because it drew no attention for tanking.
None. You know how many people just parroted the Zach Randolph doing great for this team? Like they parroted it.
It was brilliant. Dude, it's the most brilliant.
Nobody knew.
I'm going to convince you that this is the greatest tank ever pulled off.
I've put it out there and nobody seems to like grasp it. It's right there. It was the Kaiser Soze move.
Yep, total Kaiser Soze. I'm on board with, and like that, Zebo was gone, and then
and then freaking over under 25.5. Like I would have never taken the under ever if I had known Zach Randolph wasn't going to play a minute.
Nope, not a minute.
This year.
Not 1 minute. All right, let's do something else. I like that. That was fun though. I'm curious, by the way, what other people are thinking, and you can throw in the chat room if you like. Are you on board that the Kings pulled off the greatest secret tank in the history of tanking? I think so. I'm on board with it. Hey, does this is a quick one. Does Markieff Morris hit the radar in Oklahoma City? It doesn't feel like there's enough for him there, but maybe I'm wrong.
So I felt like they were pushing back a little bit on this. When he was signed, Shams Charania's report was basically like, he's going to get a big role. And that's how this stuff works is there a big role? I think he's going to have to earn it. I don't think that Jeremy Grant is getting kicked away. He's earned his spot this year. So, but there's a lot of minutes to go around. I think he could easily replace Patrick Patterson's minutes. That's it's a good situation. But he's been off the floor for a long time. And there's a question of whether or not he would be good even if he's healthy. But he's shown top 75 in the past. That to me gets my attention in a lot of leagues. If I'm in a 12-teamer that's a little bit more shallow, especially if my roster's just stacked, I'm not going to worry about that. But if you're in a deeper league that plays 150, 175 players deep, I think you absolutely got to look at that. I'm not optimistic he crosses the top 100, but top 125, yeah, I can see that for sure.
Okay, that was a relatively simple one. Here's another one that I think is relatively simple. What's Reggie Bullock the rest of the season? He's looked pretty good as a Laker, but there's limited upside there.
Like the one guy that you think they should be playing. Like,
he was great last night. Wasn't he great?
I didn't get to watch that game because I was watching the other game, but he just fits. He can shoot. He's got a little bit of defense going on. He doesn't need the ball. He's like the only guy there that fits.
Oh, you know what else he can do? That I totally forgot I was even going to bring this up. He's like a legitimately good foul shooter, which that team has basically never had. And that's that weird little thing with LA where no one felt like they won thanks to Scott Foster. But a win's a win.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, I'm not even going to say his name because I don't want him to get any sort of heat, but there was a good Twitter follow out there identifying the amount of times that Scott Foster and Tim Donaghy had talked on the telephone. Oh my dear. Yeah, that is a flaming hot. But forget that for a minute. Reggie Bullock, he's a career 83% foul shooter. And it's almost like you send a guy to the line that you know is going to make free throws, and then other guys on the team start making free throws. I think the Lakers went, and someone can correct me if I missed by one or two. I believe they made they made their last 17 free throws in a row in that game. And I don't think that it's completely unrelated to having someone that can actually step to the line and knock them down. There's a contagious aspect to it. But from a fantasy standpoint, Brew, I mean, he's basically just 3-pointers, right? Yeah. I mean, that's what you're counting on. And then if you can get anything else out of him, then great. I don't know if he'll cross top 125. I mean, it's asking a lot. In the past, he's really had to shoot lights out to get there. And it's like unfair to expect him to shoot that way. So I haven't reached for Bullock in even the deeper, 150 to 175 leagues, just because there's been higher upside targets.
Yeah, and he's not going to maintain a 1 block a game rate.
I like him more than Wayne Ellington, who I think I actually, I'm like you. I'm encouraged by the chance that he could have. Because if you remember from last year, Wayne Ellington had a nice top 80 run when he was red hot. And so if you can, we are in a small sample size for the rest of the year. So anything can happen with these guys. If especially a shooting guard who, these guys go through half season shooting streaks. So you can have a top 80 run out of either of these guys if they go like Bullock 4 for 8 last night. If they just keep going, running hot, then yeah, they're absolutely going to be valuable. So if you need threes, either of those guys, but I do like Bullock over Ellington right now.
So I actually like Ellington over Bullock, but I think we're both in agreement that they're pretty stinking close. And the reason I like Ellington is because to me, he's like a 3rd or 4th option in Detroit. And in LA, Bullock is behind LeBron, Kuz, Ingram.
You got Lonzo maybe coming back.
There's a potential Lonzo sighting. McGee's always going to get his weird group of shots up. And then clowns like Lance Stevenson and Rajon Rondo are going to come in and do more than they should also. And KCP, while we're talking about shooting guards on that team. So he gets a little lost in the wash, but I thought he was a really nice fit, and I agree with you. He could easily run hot. We may know more in the next game or two. Which of those guys is going to take more 3-pointers per game? That's basically the way I'm leaning on any given night. Next thing on the docket, these are the quicker ones, and then we can segue over to the questions. I'm going to skip over Memphis because with JV missing the game tonight, I think that takes a little bit of the shine off the thing. But what do you think is his potential upside as just a quick Memphis stopover here?
Assuming he can get back into the country. That's I really think he could have top 40 upside. Like at times we've seen some JV, being let loose. This is a place he can be let loose. They need big man minutes. He's the big piece that they got. There's really no reason not to use him. But here's the weird thing with Memphis. They've just gone weird. And they've got major ownership issues. They've got major front office issues. They got coaching issues. They got issues up the wazoo that were being held together by the presence of Marc Gasol and Mike Conley and having a bit of a normality there. Now that that's gone, you bring in Avery Bradley and you just sort of bequeath him to be this, insta starter with, plenty of usage. And the Kyle Anderson situation, I think he's going to get bad news on the MRI. When you just announced that Chandler Parsons is going to get minutes, like what? Like really? Okay, cool. Chandler Parsons is going to get minutes, everybody. So that tells me that it might not be great news for Kyle Anderson. Like they're going to just take the long view with him and, then see what they can do with Parsons. And I still have no idea what they're doing there, but you have a glut of guys and it seems like they could get weird there really quick. So that's the one thing that could throw JV off is, do they just give him 20 minutes? They give him days off, that kind of a thing could step in the way, but he's very consistent statistically, and he's got plenty of opportunity there. If he gets to 26 minutes per game, he's an early round guy.
Miami.
I'm a little optimistic about Miami.
Yeah, this is one of those weird times where there's some actual stuff going on as opposed to just Spoelstra yanking guys around. Derek Jones Jr. and Goran Dragic both, Jones played briefly in Miami's game yesterday. Dragic did not, but is expected to make his return shortly. After they had thinned the herd a little bit, they add a few more bodies back into the herd. But what does this all mean going forward? Who's going to sort of, is there, forget who, I need to dial it back one click because assumes that something will, and I'm not even going to go that far. So what I'm going to say is there anyone in Miami that rises to the top? Because lately it's been ugly.
It's been ugly all year for the most part. Kelly Olynyk gets on the radar. What you see here with the James Johnson injury is a convenient way to get him off the floor, though he had been showing signs of life, which
signs of life, the James Johnson story.
Yeah, that hernia injury just wrecked everything. And so that is what it is. Every time somebody gets hurt, they get that much more viable. Getting Tyler Johnson out of there, they became that much more viable. Dion Waiters is, not the most healthy guy. Hassan Whiteside, you can start to see some things falling apart there. You squint and you start to see, okay, the Olynyks come into view. Derek Jones comes into view. Bam Adebayo might even come into view, even when he's gotten opportunities, he hasn't quite gotten over the threshold. So you do also worry about the Dwayne Wade retirement tour. That's going to probably, depending on their playoff status, that's going to linger. And even if they're in the playoff chase, he's been their guy forever and will, kind of constantly be the guy. I'm just watching. Olynyk's been added in most of the leagues I've played in, so he's not available for me to make the call. I would probably be right on that in those deeper 150 to 190 player leagues. Same kind of, I think Derek Jones sits in the same range for me, coming off a knee injury with the chaos in Miami, the potential that it's a bumpy ride and the ROI is not there. If you have a playoff format and you're sort of looking at week 24, 25 and saying, okay, I want to be good then, you bump those guys up a little bit.
And you could probably even get those guys as those weeks approach too.
Right.
What about, how far does Winslow fall? How high can Dragic climb? Because Goran wasn't even that good last year. I feel like people forgot that.
Yeah, no, he's in a 9-cat league, not even really worth dealing with right now. I think he could be better, though, in a bench role that's more defined, that's more the Goran Dragic show. And in an 8-cat league, you might see him in a limited role put up a top 100, top 120, but really you're hoping for top 100 out of a risky ad like that. But I could see him doing that in a bench role, and I could see this, for Winslow, for what he does, which is basically late round, low end value when you factor everything in. But for what he does, I could see Winslow keeping it up. So, it's
no
it's
preemptive
probably
stuff there.
No preemptive stuff. I think the one thing I'm watching out of Miami is to see, is Josh Richardson gonna, be the guy. Like, they didn't make moves based on their belief that Josh Richardson could be a guy that's like a number 2, number 3 type scorer. That was his role early on in the season. Now you bring in Dion Waiters. You got the Wade stuff going on in the background. And the internal talk in Miami has been that Richardson's the guy. And if he's not the guy, it really sort of invalidates a lot of what they've done. So I'm curious to see, does the Spoelstra winging it and letting everybody have whatever they're going to have and not really caring about that stuff, does that win out? Or does the narrative and the opportunity costs of what they passed up on, the Jimmy Butler stuff, does that win out? And does he come back and be, especially if they lose players, can he be a top 30 guy? And I don't think he can right now. I think he's more of a top 50 guy.
And the last thing on my list before we take some questions is a stopover in New York. Because, what the hell? What's a show without a little fun at David Fizdale's expense? Mario Hezonja was injured leading into the All-Star break, and Luke Cornett had himself a very interesting, if incredibly poor shooting performance. Is there any universe where Fizdale will just let Cornett be the power forward going down the stretch, or was that a flash in the pan and I should not get as excited as I got?
I mean, I went and I added Cornett in a bunch of places.
So you and I both were just like, come on, Fizz.
I was the guy that dropped him too. I dropped Cornett and then I turned around and picked him up and I paid a small premium and nobody else wanted him. And I was like, okay, whatever, fine. Make me feel dumber for my pickup. You don't trust anything that franchise does. Like, they're, if you believe the Ringer and Bill Simmons that James Dolan wants out, I mean, it's all bets are off. You've got this weird front office that does not do things smartly. You got Fizdale who's getting told who to play, and then when he's not getting told who to play, He's making it up as he goes. It's a mess. So, like, basically, I'm just looking at stat sets and looking at potency. You know, if Cornet does slide into 24 minutes, that's a late round guy. Maybe even better, you know, with especially in this small sample size of 25 some odd games. He could just go on a heater.
He took 10 threes in that game before the break.
Why not? Everybody's doing it. I mean, knock yourself out. And you're going to get a couple steals and blocks, you know, and some low-end boards along the way. Absolutely. Luke Cornet is got the potency. Now, you just can't like, I couldn't put him in any lineups this week.
No.
You know,
because you have no idea. It could be Hazonia.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, Hazonia is a nothing burger. You know, and you just, Dennis Smith Jr. has every reason to prove himself, and, you know, the franchise has every reason to let him. So he could be sort of a one-man show. How's that going to rub off on teammates? You know, there's a lot of weird stuff going on in New York. So, you know, Mitchell Robinson.
Yeah,
what up?
That's the easy one.
You're good. And then DeAndre Jordan, you know, can he survive shutdown stuff? I mean, he's another guy that how do you not trade DeAndre Jordan at the deadline for you know, box of donuts? Oh, because we're gonna teach Mitchell Robinson how to play? Please. Stupid.
Brew, you got fire in your belly this morning.
Yeah, you know, I woke up a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, it's just so stupid. Like, honestly. The Knicks fans, you gotta at least appreciate when somebody out there is willing to call it stupid, because it's stupid. I mean, it's so dumb.
I'm letting this go. We're gonna take questions in a second, but this is way too good.
I know. I mean, I'm messing around. I mean, nobody's really dumb. It's just basketball. But man, so stupid.
Let's go to the chat room. What's happening, everybody? Let's see what we got here. It's a couple of good mornings, a couple of good afternoons, depending on where you guys are living.
No good nights.
No good nights yet. That would be, oh, geez.
Truman Show, I believe.
Yeah, it is. I'm just trying to think of what's 12 hours ahead of us right now. 12 hours is like the Middle East, I think. So good night to you if that's where you're watching from. Ben says 12-team 9-cat. All right, playoff purposes. Devin Booker and Jaren Jackson Jr. on one side, Yusuf Nurkic, Jordan Clarkson on the other, mostly because Memphis has a bad playoff structure, and I'm thinking about punting threes. This is pretty specific, Ben. So I'm going to try to de-specify this question, because I think maybe people are looking more at playoff schedule. Not everybody has the same playoff schedule. Also something to remember when we offer thoughts on stuff like this. In a vacuum, Brew, I've got to think that Booker and JJJ is the side in this one, but Booker is a shutdown risk. Memphis does have a 2-game week mixed in there. Does that drastically change how you value them down the stretch?
I mean, no, it doesn't. I mean, Booker and JJJ have all the value there. You do worry about Booker a little bit. He's banged up, but he makes the calls there because Phoenix is stupid. And if he wants to play, he's going to play. So, I mean,
get us in trouble today.
Nobody's stupid. It's just basketball.
Okay, there you go. That's like
they're so stupid.
That's like where you have to add the word allegedly before you talk about anything related to crime. It's just basketball, but it's stupid.
No, it's no, but that side's got way too much value. I don't think you can. Man, it's like you're just sort of planning for the what if of the what if of the what if of the what if. And but the other side again was it was Clarkson and who again? It was Nurk?
Yeah, Nurk is the
Clarkson
nice piece
and
on
Nurk.
that side.
I mean, Nurk has just as much injury risk as anybody else. Clarkson's been good, but oh man, the Cavs.
Yeah.
I'm gonna hang on to the value there.
Or aim higher. That would be the other side of this one. Aim higher. You know, if you're bailing on these guys because you don't necessarily need them for what you're doing, that doesn't mean the other guy doesn't need them. So aim high, man. Can we get a post All-Star break hoop ball 6? Well, we've got the post All-Star break B150 that Brew just put out, and you can get access to that by becoming a premium member.
Can I say something about that? Man, that is it. Doing that one is always every year. It's different because it's not 3 months of research. It's just, you know, you just can't do that in the middle of the season. But man, there's some surprising stuff out there. It is there's a methodology that you got to kind of take is what is this guy worth? Now, what is he worth in his current situation? Now factor in silly season and go, and just rank these guys. And you'd be like surprised that Triple J's, hasn't really been as good as you would think he's been this year, given the hype.
Yep. Very true.
And so, is he going to turn it on and just go? And so there's a lot of questions that I had to work through, with each guy, and it's a moving target. So it was a fun, I love that piece. It always comes sort of at a weird time. There's a break, I'm able to sit down and really look at, what somebody's done over the course of the year, what the situation is and all that good stuff. And, it's a moving target. It's tough, and it's just weird. It's like if in football we just were in week 11, we're like, okay, everybody take a week off. Let's we're all going to come back and change our philosophies, and then we're going to play for 5 weeks, and then we're going to do this playoff thing.
I like it. That sounds good. I might watch football.
No, you wouldn't.
No, I wouldn't. Who am I kidding? Ben says, I remember Neil set up some listener leagues a while back, wondering the status on those. Well, without being kind of a butt here, Neil is available on Twitter. You can ask him straight out. He can tell you how all those bad boys are going. I'm in
a mean chase right now, Dan.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm in like 5th place in the league. It's a very competitive. I think our hoopball leagues, actually, judging by the waiver wires, are easily right up there with anything else I'm doing.
Oh my God, yes. Dude, people are as ferocious as I am. It's weird to be in a league where everybody is that ferocious. It's
and
terrifying.
Everybody knows what's up.
Yeah,
that's the other piece about it that makes it tougher. Is this isn't just some Yahoo league with a bunch of Yahoos.
No, I've been hearing that you should get into Yahoo Pro leagues that have a little bit of money on them. It sounds like those are a pretty easy way to make some money. I might do that next year.
I used to do CBS leagues that had terrible payouts. Like 50% of the pot goes to the winners.
Oh, brutal.
Terrible, right? But it was like taking candy from a baby.
Yeah, at that point you're like, all right, well, I kind of have to.
Yeah, but it was very pointless and.
Yeah, that's true. All right.
Pointless.
Beans, what's up, my man? Beans got a few questions. Gary Harris and Robert Covington are on the mend. What can we expect out of those two guys rest of season?
Gary Harris is in trouble, man. It's been a terrible year for Harris, for Murray. These guys have been impacted by the bench and the depth of that squad. They haven't played up to par. It's been ugly. Those are 4th-round draft picks. And they, you didn't really think that they had a lot of risk this year. So they've been bad. And I don't know that Gary Harris comes back in and is 4th-round Gary Harris. I think he's maybe at best top 75 Gary Harris. So, he could easily have just a dud of a season that nobody's truly talking about. And, giving you top 125 value when on the floor and also being hurt a lot. And same kind of for Will Barton.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been a mess for those guys. Injuries have been a bit of a B this year. And yeah, I did. I said that.
You did.
Shut up, Dan Besbris.
What about Rocco?
PG show we got here. You and your Urban Dictionary and everything you do with that.
Caca. What about Robert Covington?
It sucks that he's not back right away. You were hoping that they were gearing up for the break and wanted to release him, but there's just too much upside with him.
Yeah.
He's a legitimate top 40 threat. Even if you say Saric is going to, kind of expand his role and be a bigger piece, they need him in Minnesota. They're in a chase, sort of. So I think Covington, he should be owned. When he gets on the floor, I think like top 60 sort of is kind of like his floor. As long as he's good, as long as he's healthy.
Yeah, and it seems like he will have to be at this point. Like, you hold him out for 2 months, you're not going to bring him back if he's not right.
Oh, well, yeah, that's true, and he is moving towards that.
So I feel okay about
total
that.
Tibbs minutes, man. Just
crush. Brutal. Chris Dunn, Torian Prince. What do you think of those two guys rest of season?
This, the amount of injuries that happen mid-season, and especially in like Atlanta, like where they're just taking guys and like, okay, you're hurt, we're gonna give you 2 months off, that type of a thing. for Prince has just completely screwed up the rhythm of his season. And he's another guy that you can't really get aggressive with on the projections because, one, you don't know, are they just completely tanking? And he hasn't had time to earn his role to where everybody revolves around him. Now he's a piece in a puzzle. And so he's fallen to something, in the top 80 to 100 range. And that's, far cry from where people expected him at the beginning of the year. He's taken time off for the injury. And, I would hope for top 80, if I got him, and then be ready for anything else. Yeah, theoretically, he could get hot. And Kevin Herter is made, he's out right now. So maybe there's like an opportunity for him and Bays to step in. Same thing with Bays. He was rolling at a top 50 level, just crushing it. He gets kind of a run-of-the-mill ankle injury. And now, because of the rust games and them easing him back in, and you don't know, are they going to bring him back to his normal role after the All-Star break or not? His per game number has dropped to 75, after a strong start. And when you factor in the time off, now what was really just like a massive windfall has sort of become, there's still a chance for a nice sizable ROI there, but it could also swing the other way. So those guys, and there was one other you had asked about, it was Torian Prince and Chris Dunn. Dunn, again, man, these mid-season, and in his case, beginning of the season injuries, really knocking him off of his trajectory. And you see Zach LaVine just take that team, and you had Jabari Parker, trying to do the same thing. You had this team of chuckers. Now Dunn steps into a situation where he's not the guy. He's searching. He's trying to find his way, and it's really unfortunate for him, the timing of his injuries, and then the way that this team has developed. You throw in Jim Boylan, and it's just yet another monkey wrench into his plans. Now, I don't think he can play as unproductively as he has in his current role. So like something has to give type thing with Dunn. And that's why if you go to the Bruski 150, you'll see he's a little bit higher than most, I would think most projections going forward, is there is some bounce back potential here for him. But you worry, does he sense that he's, sort of on his way out with that organization? Has Zach LaVine taken full control of everything? And can Zach LaVine make Chris Dunn a better player? And I think that's the knock on LaVine right now is it's great you can get yours, but what are you doing for everybody else?
All right, lightning round time. Let's start rolling through the questions, and we'll do our best to knock them out one by one. Ron says, thoughts on Kevin Love the rest of the season? Should I flip him for a better ROI? I mean, the answer to should I flip a guy for a better ROI is always yes, but it comes down to what that means. Brew, the reports on him have largely been good. He doesn't want to miss games the rest of the way.
I mean, sure. I mean, here's my thing. If I can get out from underneath the asset, I'm going to try to do it. So if I can get a top 60, top 75 guy, yeah, by all means, let me liquidate that thing. What am I going to lose? Like, couple 2 to 3 rounds value max. Well, I gained that in some stability, for my roster. If not, then that early round upside, it does become, something you want to search for. So I think that you're looking in that top 60 to 75 range for, what kind of deal you should be willing to make with a Kevin Love. I just don't trust anything that franchise does right now at all. So
yeah. Dan, who knows? That's what I was about to say.
Could come back. They could play completely crowded, and Kevin Love could play a 25-minute role, which is sizable, and be happy with it, and be a top 50 guy. Or he just goes nuts, and that's obviously the upside scenario. Or he plays half the games and cuts it off 2 weeks, with 2 weeks of the season to go.
Yeah, there's a lot of directions that one can go. Would you trade Draymond Green for Jonathan Isaac in a Dynasty 8-cat league?
In a Dynasty league, I want Jonathan Isaac no matter what.
Yeah, he's going to be incredible. Just absolutely incredible. Is Derek White worth a pickup, and would you drop Jeremy Lamb, Terrence Ross, or Jeremy Grant for him?
Run that by me one more time.
So I think the answer to the first side of that is yes. Is Derek White worth a pickup?
Yes, he absolutely is.
Would you drop any of two Jeremys or a Terrence for him? Lamb, Grant, or Ross are the three potential drops, or would you stick with those three guys?
I would drop either Ross or Grant for him.
Yeah, I think I'd drop Ross for him too. Would probably be my Grant is going to see
this though. Ross, do we get an 8 or a 9 count on
that? We did not.
I'll say this about Ross: he's going to be consistent, top 100 the rest of the way, especially a 9 cat.
Yeah, he's chugging, man. They got rid of Jonathan Simmons, so that really
he's really easy to predict. Like just very stable numbers. So yeah, I think Ross he's a good one to own the rest of the way.
What happened to Eric Bledsoe is a question. I think I'm going to basically jump that one, Charleston, not because I don't appreciate it, but it's just a blip. He's been really very good for most of the season. Everybody has a bad game or two, and those were his. We talked about Derek Jones Jr. That question came up. We talked about Mikal Bridges. TJ Warren.
I talked around the Bridges thing. Hang on to him, please.
Okay, what about TJ Warren? Do you think he plays it all the rest of the way?
I do think he gets back. I think he gets back in about a week or two, further complicating the Suns situation. But there's enough moving pieces there that could fall off the radar that I think Mikal Bridges will survive, and it just might be ugly, but we've seen what ugly looks like for Bridges. It's going to be top 125. As for Warren, he can get in there and do some stuff. So like I've got him in a spot. I haven't pulled the trigger on a drop. I want to see him come back and maybe give you top 75 numbers, for those final, say, 20 games.
Fair enough. We talked about Luke Cornett. We've knocked a bunch of these things out. For those of you that are seeing these questions come by the chat room here, and I'm saying we've talked about it, that means go back and watch the first half of the show. These were on my list, guys. I accurately predicted who you all would be talking about. Dario Saric, what are your thoughts on how his rest of season looks? Upside, downside, floor? What's the deal with old Dario?
I think his upside's top 75. But I've got concerns about him reaching that upside. I mean, it's been a rough season. It's hard to get behind the full switch of, the light switch. But it's top 75 upside. I would be much more comfortable calling him a top 100 to 125 guy.
If I was looking to trade Serge Ibaka, what sort of range guys should I be targeting? Top 50?
Yeah, top 50, 60. He's had a phenomenal year. He's a great example of what happens when a player can get real efficient by playing less minutes, playing on a good team, and really being, in the sweet spots. Now, there's something to be said for Marc Gasol operating in some of those same sweet spots. But I would think, actually here, I'll even go a little lower. I'll go top 60 because Toronto's schedule is not great. And, maybe you could eke some value out there.
By the way, while we were answering that question, TJ Warren was ruled out for Saturday. So it's almost
he was just he hasn't done explosive activities yet, but he was shooting around before the last game, and I would say probably about 10 days is probably the over under there.
We got a rank fest. We'll finish up with that one because why the hell not? We got a Dragic question, which we've actually covered during the first half of the show as well. Is it time to trade Drew Holiday? We actually talked about that during the first half of the show. Brew, I did a hell of a job of preempting the questions today. Good for me.
Way to be Thunder Dan.
Yeah, well, sometimes you just got to be clairvoyant. I got Rudy Gobert for Anthony Davis. How'd I do? That's the question.
Oh, yeah, great. Absolutely phenomenal. I mean, if I had to say, so Davis plays the rest of the year, takes a game off here or there, I think he's top 30.
So you actually, with Rudy Gobert, you far exceeded that, basically.
Yeah, I think that, there's going to be, it's just not going to be good. It's not going to be optimal Anthony Davis. And if somehow it is, I'm willing to take that bad beat.
Yeah, and it wouldn't be, I don't feel like even if it was a strong AD for 25 minutes a game, I don't feel like he would beat Gobert by much. I feel like that's pretty close to where he would end up then. So the cap for AD is probably close to the expectation for Rudy Gobert. So I agree. I think that's a good trade. It seems like you got out from under him in the nick of time. What else we got here towards the end of the thing? A couple questions shooting in at the last minute, so we'll try to squeeze those in. This is a very specific question, so I don't know that we can do it. It's a league with field goals and free throws made and both types of rebounds. And then you have to wonder if you're trading Montrezl Harrell for Kyle Lowry. We love you, buddy. I know you're one of our loyal guys, but this one's just too much for a live show.
Give me Montrez.
Okay. Yeah, because of the extra categories, basically.
The extra categories kind of help, I guess, and I'm still a little unclear on how they are, but Kyle Lowry has been known to take time off.
This is about time for another back injury, I think.
It really is, and they got no reason to push them through anything. It's a lower end schedule. Montrezl Harrell, that Clippers team might try to compete for the playoffs, just a little bit, for the next couple weeks, but he's completely a guy that they want to let loose. So go Montrez.
All right, super lightning round now. A couple of head-to-headers for you. Ingles or Prince rest of season?
Give me Ingles. Quick note, he's had a personal situation with his child, and it kind of makes sense that he wouldn't play well for a couple months.
Rajon Rondo or Gary Harris rest of season?
Give me Gary Harris.
Would you trade John Collins to get Anthony Davis? I think I would.
No.
I think I'd roll the dice on that.
Look, I've been laughing about this thing, and there's no way he can play, and I've been wrong the entire time.
Wayne Ellington, over under 3 threes per game. I'm going over on this one.
Oh, that's a big number, though.
I'm taking it, man. He's attempted 17 3-pointers in like 55 minutes in his first 2 games.
Let's go over. I'm going to say 3.1.
Yeah, I've got him over too. I'm going 3.4. I'm going big, baby. That team desperately needs somebody to go.
Oh, hey, shout out to Blake Griffin, man. Like his season's been way better than anybody's thought it would be.
Yeah, and he's been healthy.
He grew out the beard. It's like he got out of LA and he's like been in like a log cabin somewhere.
This is the scene. I'm playing the Rocky IV training montage music over this when I put it out over the internet. We're going boom, 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 boom.
He just went a little too Hollywood. He just need to get back to his roots and chop some logs and go run through the snow and
drag a
Puritan
truck.
work ethic versus whatever Russia does.
He's up to 48% shooting this year. He's not only taking 3-pointers, so good for him. Sometimes you got to, like you said, drag a truck through the Arctic tundra and see what happens. What else we got on this thing? I want to make sure I get the right questions in here. Jeff Green versus Justice Winslow.
Scott Brooks' love for Jeff Green knows no bounds. Give me Jeff Green.
Oh, this is which one are you dropping? So Justice is the drop then between those two.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Is Scott Foster the worst NBA ref in the league? We touched on this a little bit earlier in the show. We're gonna leave the referee stuff here.
I don't know who the worst ref in the league is. I don't get caught up in the reffing. I mean, I know from a gaming perspective you probably should, but I don't get caught up in that.
Yeah. Will Zion be shut down? We got a college question.
I thought it was great that Shams was breaking Zion news. It just kind of let you know where everything was at. Yeah, I'm going to go no. I'm going to say he plays again.
My take is I don't care. He should never have had to play a year in college. Anyway, a dude like that, if somebody wants to draft him, they should be drafted. There's no reason to put off these guys actually making money for a year. It's nonsense. They're not spending all 4 years in college. It's silly. All right, a rank fest to close things out. And by the way, good on the NBA and the NBPA trying to get together and fix this 19-year-old rule because it's nonsense.
At least they're doing something right.
Yep, that's a good move.
Hey-o.
There you go. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, it's only 4? Man, it looked like more when I was looking at it on a page. It's only 4 names, Brew. This is an easy rank fest to finish up with, but it's what we're doing anyway. So 4 names, 9 category, Brew. Rest of season: Spencer Dinwiddie, Patrick Beverly, Justin Holiday, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. 4-player rank fest.
That was quite the list there.
Yeah.
I'm going to go Patrick Beverly, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, then the other guy I forgot, and then Spencer Dinwiddie.
Dinwiddie is fourth place in this one or first place? Were you working from the bottom up?
He's fourth because you just don't know when he's going to get back. There's only X amount of games. If you're going to take 5 games and he's not back, that's 20% of his rest of season value. So, I mean, it sucks. It's, you know, the injuries are what they are. You know, they've definitely impacted a lot of our squads this year. It's stupid injuries.
Yep.
It's so stupid, man. Just dumb, man. Like, who needs thumb injuries?
Oh, Josh Jackson versus Kenrick Williams. That's officially our last one.
Josh Jackson sucks in fantasy leagues.
Bruce so mad today. I love this show
actually,
so much.
I'm in a great mood, Dan, but everything's so stupid, man.
He's Aaron Bruski. I'm Dan Besbris. Have a lovely weekend, everybody. Or have a stupid weekend, friends. Back on Monday, we'll have a reverse chronological lightning round. It'll be back to, it'll be nice to get back to a little bit of normalcy. At Aaron Bruski, at Dan Besbris, at Hoopball Fantasy. Hoop-ball.com is the website. Rate and review the podcast. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. You know this, the drill. And go buy Hawaiian Isles Kona coffee. Do it and tell him Dan sent you because you'll be happy you did. Bruce flashing his mug. Oh, there it is. There's the box on the way out. We will talk to you in 3 days. So long, everybody. The part of the show where Dan figures out